Hi, everyone. I'm June Beha, CEO of BayhaGroup. Welcome to my live stream show, Co-Design Work with Wonder. And I'm here today talking about one of my favorite topics, which is grant getting. So today's topic is going to be 5 proven tips for helping you land millions of dollars in grant funding. So for me, the first tip is really about the why. So I want to share with you my why of why for so many years now, decades, to over 20 years, I've been working on grants, what my why is. So for me, I'm galvanized by the need for equity and social justice. At BayhaGroup, we support under-resourced public schools by securing millions of dollars in grant funding to implement programs inspiring youth to claim their power and use their voice as heroes in their life's journey. So for me, that's the why. And for you, as you're looking for grants, really get in touch with why you really want the grant funding, because there's going to be organizations that might sway you to do different things that may sway your vision, your mission. And chasing dollars is, for me, never a good idea. So please, when you're looking for grants and you have a very solid mission, stick with that why and find funding that aligns with that why. So my second tip for you is how to shop for grants. So I really have fun with this. I think of it, I love shopping, and it's way less stressful to think about, ooh, where could I find some fun, cool grants out there? And when I got started, I don't even think Google was really Google yet. And I had to find grants in different ways. But now you really can use Google to do keyword searches, grants for whatever the topic might be. And so shopping for grants could be also, if you're looking for federal funding, there's grants.gov. In another session, I can go through what it's like to look for federal grants. But for now, after you know your why, the second step, the tip is to shop for grants. Sometimes you may find grants by people telling you about them. So to be honest, the grants that we work on, often clients will come to us and say, I found a grant and I would like to apply for this. Is this something that we could do together? Is this something you could help me with? So in terms of finding the grants, where I worked before, there were a group of people that's their whole job. So if you really want to really immerse yourself in that, do a lot of shopping. So my third one is you found the grant. You found something that you're so excited to apply for. It's the grant that you feel like really aligns to your vision, your mission. And it happens to be, so the first is read the fine print. First, make sure that the deadline has not passed. The second, in the fine print, is the eligibility section. Make sure that your organization, whomever you're writing for, is eligible. So spend some time with that. Really make sure you're able to apply. And there's so many details with regard to grant writing, so please do read the fine print, because that leads me to my fourth tip, which is something that is really for people. Find people maybe on your team that are very detail focused. So thankfully on our team, we have Carmen. She reads every single word and manages all of the gory details. So the gory details are, do you have all of the required forms that must be submitted? A federal grant that we're working on right now, they're so particular that they tell us which font to use, what size of font, the size of the margin, that it has to be double spaced, that it can only be 25 pages. And so if we go to 26 pages, we're automatically disqualified. And it seems silly, but think about the reader. They actually want to weed out the applications because it's less work. So don't be in the pile that gets discarded because you didn't read the gory details. So that is just another important piece. It's often not even, it's not even really the managing those gory details is as important as what I'm going to talk about next, which is to really be the reader's writer. I'm always thinking about who is reading the grant. That means who on the other side, wherever I'm sending it, whether it's the Department of Education or state education departments, who is on the other side reading it? And I'm imagining that they're reading hundreds of them. So how can we as the applicant stand out so that they remember to give us a high score? So can we create some engaging way for the reader? And just something to keep in mind, I actually on our team have a team of journalists. So people who by training are used to writing engaging content. So if you have people or if you're that person who enjoys writing, this is a really nice way. But at the same time, how do you create creative and engaging content and still follow the instructions? So there's a fine line. So again, keep in mind how to get the points. So put in content that they're looking for from the instructions, and then also how to make it so that it's interesting. We like to put in sometimes quotes. If we're writing about how to create engaging programs, we'll put in quotes from students. And again, just to break up the text. And then also make it so that it's, imagine that the reader has a scoring rubric and they're looking for certain points. So make sure those points are easy for them to give you. So that's my last one, is be a reader's writer. And so now I'm happy to open it up for questions because it's really about what's helpful to you. We have, all right. What are some non-written components of the grant getting process? So non-written components. I suppose it is having information that shows that you are the non-written components. I'm not entirely sure what that non-written components is there. Let's see. On average, how long does it take for you and your team to finish grants? That's a really good question. So deadlines, making the deadline is really important. Just the other week, I helped someone with a grant and we only had about 36 hours to finish it. So thankfully it was a short application, meaning that there were probably about 10 different text boxes with about a maximum of 100 words up to maybe 250 words each. It was a grant for the Gates Foundation and we were able to finish it in about 36 hours. So that was probably one of the shorter ones. I've worked on grants for months. It just really depends on which grant, what it's for, and how involved it is. What are some common mistakes that new grant writers are making? I'm not sure if there's, I would say the first one would be the missing a detail in the instructions. I have seen grants get disqualified, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a new grant writer issue. It's really about being a very detail-oriented grant writer. So I've seen grants get disqualified for missing forms. I've seen grants disqualified because of page limits, because of not putting page numbers in, not putting a table of contents in. So it's so important to follow the instructions and also do all of the requirements, because they're very clear about these requirements and they take them seriously. And also the deadlines, so making the deadlines. Is it possible to get grants independently, or do us beginners have to work with a team? So you certainly can get grants independently, and so many of you watching right now are maybe starting out, and as an independent person getting a grant, I've worked on grants for artists as individuals, and if you think about it, scholarships are another form of grants. So as students, you can apply for scholarships, which functions very similarly to grants that we're writing. So as an individual, you can look for these different opportunities to fund something that you want to do. Is grant writing competitive? Yes. So grant writing by nature is competitive. So that means they put out, and they do it in a sense, they being funders. So grants come from maybe the government. So I've written grants for the state government as well as for the federal government. There are grants from foundations. So for example, I mentioned the Gates Foundation. So Bill and Melinda Gates have a foundation, and they give out different kinds of funding for different reasons. And there are lots of organizations that give out grants. Private companies give out grants. So you can look at private companies and see, often those have to be for nonprofits. So this is what I mean about the eligibility. You have to make sure that you or your organization is eligible. So it's just really important to know what you're applying for and that you meet the requirements. How do you estimate how much time a grant will take to organize, write, and submit? Well, this actually comes from experience. So how long it takes, thankfully, I have a team of people that I've worked with for a number of years, and I can understand how long it takes to do the writing. Right now, we've become pretty efficient. When I first started, I would say estimate it takes way longer than you think. So allocate as much time. I've learned to trick myself. So if it's due on Friday at 5 p.m., I tell myself that I have to be done by at least Thursday at 9 a.m. And that has saved me many times, in that I feel like inevitably something happens. My internet crashes. The computer somehow doesn't want to cooperate. Something happens, and so you need to leave time for those unexpected instances that if you hold off till the last day, it's just super stressful. Can you tell us about an exciting grant you supported and got awarded? There's been so many. So I would say one of the most memorable ones was we worked on a grant that was new from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. It was called the K-12 Strong Workforce Grant. It was the first time they put it out, and they offered up to $5 million grant for school districts, and we were working with Downey Unified, and the community were so aligned in our thinking, and we thought, okay, well, it's up to 5 million, so we're going to we applied for $4,998,000, something to that effect. And it was really interesting because we saw later on how much other communities were applying for. So we decided to go big, and it paid off. We ended up getting 4.3 million. And the way we found out was we were at an event at Hulu, and the list came out, and we were all at this meeting, and it came out. And so we were so excited that we got this great grant, and we were able to actually pay for a lot of the stuff that we're doing with our interns right now. And it was one of those awesome moments, like a perfect, it all lined up, and it was really an amazing, all of it, the whole experience. So how do I improve my skills as a grant writer? I would say the first thing to do is to do them. It's like what people say about writing. You can't improve writing if you don't write. And I would say for grant writing, if you can practice by doing, then definitely. I started by volunteering to do grant writing. I had learned about it during a class in graduate school, and I decided when I got out of graduate school just to start volunteering to do grant writing because I wanted to gain the experience. And it was easier for me to offer to work with communities who couldn't afford grant writers. And I thought this was a good way that I could be of service. So I would write them for free, gain experience, and they didn't have anything to lose because I wasn't asking them to pay me. And if they got funded, then I could negotiate with them different ways for me to then help work on the project. But it was a great way to just practice. So if you are new to wanting to do grants, start with some scholarships. find some scholarships to apply for. They're very, very similar to grants that I'm talking about. So what types of grants can beginners look for? So Belen, I would say the scholarships. So for you as an intern, it is really, there's so many scholarships and they have applications. So it's essentially the same thing. I think of grants as there are forms you fill out. There is something called a narrative. So that's really the story of why should someone fund you. And so often in scholarships, they want to know about you. They want to see the writing. They want you to talk about yourself. So you can use scholarships as a way, scholarship applications as a way to practice some grant writing. And then see if there's organizations that really want to do more with grant writing. You can do it by doing research about grants. So you could be really helpful in terms of shopping for grants. So we're in the middle of that right now with some of our interns. We're helping to shop for some grants for a documentary film. And so this is part of, if we find some that make it and make sense for this documentary film team to apply for, then we could practice. Well, how do we apply for something like that? So first it's shopping, finding some grants, finding some things that you're interested in, and seeing what's available. What are some previous topics or prompts you've written about for grants? So I mostly write grants in the education arena. And I have written grants for something as strange as student drug testing. So there was a time when people really wanted to make sure young people were not doing drugs and did random sampling to make sure that they, in sports and ASB, were not taking drugs. So I was writing grants on behalf of school districts to pay for student drug testing. I've written grants for counseling, so to pay for counselors at schools because they weren't getting funded by the general fund. So grant funding was helping to pay for people to provide social services, counseling grants. I've written grants for school safety because of the school shootings. Because of trying to get schools to be prepared if anything happened, like what happened with Columbine. There were a lot of grants that came out when that happened that I worked on. And so now finally I get to work on grants that are really what my passion projects are, which is preparing young people for the workforce. And right now we're working on one that I'm super excited about, and it's due in a week and a half. So it's something that our whole team is working on, and it's certainly top of mind, but I still get excited about it. It's something that I do where I don't mind staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and I get into this zone where I get so excited about wanting to share the different innovative ideas in the proposal and getting people excited about the ideas and funding us. So that's the passion that needs to come across. I feel people can tell when you're excited about something. So in terms of grant getting, that's the part where it's important that it's aligned to your mission. So this is a topic that we will be discussing more. It's a lot. So grant getting is our first one today. And we're going to be doing another one starting next month. We're going to do them consistently every third Thursday. So our next one is December 17th. And it's at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So please join us. I'm so excited to be talking to you all about grants, and thank you. Bye.